What, we some kind of...
Sinister Six.
Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. Sony has been wanting to make a Sinister Six film for years. Drew Goddard, the former showrunner of Daredevil, was developing a movie and even completed a script. Going all the way back to 2014, Sony's obsession with the Sinister Six movie led to them completely botching The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Don't you know? I'm Electro.
The original plan was to have the Sinister Six take up their traditional roles as a group of supervillains wreaking havoc on New York City and going up against Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. But after The Amazing Spider-Man 2's poor reception, those plans began to crumble. So fast forward to 2016. Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures are working together on an MCU version of the web-slinger.
Hey everyone.
Good job.
But Sony is still producing films on their own featuring famous Spider-Man foes as protagonists in their own solo films. So far, we've seen 2 Venom films that portray him as an anti-hero. Tom Hardy's version of Eddie Brock is an all-around good guy without an evil bone in his body. And while Venom still needs the occasional reminder from Eddie that he can't just go around eating people, Venom's still basically a good guy.
Ooh, I smell bad symbiote, and it ain't me.
He's basically Vince Vaughn in every movie Vince Vaughn has ever made.
I want you to take it back to the business class. I want you to round up a couple honeys. At our hotel room, we're going to have kind of a pool party.
Now, it's important to remember that Venom even aspires to be a superhero.
We will need a cape and a mask.
He wants to help people and snack on bad guys.
Going out there solving cases, fighting bad guys. Maybe I eat them.
Now, Sony also has a movie about Morbius coming out sometime this year, and they're also developing a movie about Kraven. So we can assume these 2 villains will be handled in roughly the same way. Not as measured or principled as your typical superhero, but more in the vein of a Venom or a Deadpool anti-hero. They're happy to get blood on their hands as long as it's the blood of
Bad guys.
Oh, bad guys to kill.
So it's clear that despite Sony's original Sinister Six film crumbling away, they're still building up to one. We think that this version of the Sinister Six will be Sony's answer to the Guardians of the Galaxy or the Suicide Squad, a ragtag group of anti-heroes teaming up to save the day. Now let's take roll call. Who will be the members of this Sinister Six? We have Venom, Morbius, and Kraven, they're all shoo-ins, but that leaves us with 3 more spots to fill. Now, Spider-Man No Way Home featured a multitude of different Spider-Verse characters in the purple reality breaking sky. Most prominently featured were Kraven the Hunter, Rhino, and Scorpion. So we know that Kraven is getting his own film starring Aaron Taylor Johnson. So seeing that character teased in No Way Home makes us wonder if Rhino and Scorpion will also get their own spin-off films. Now, I can solidly guarantee you that this won't be Paul Giamatti's Rhino. But could we see the return of Michael Mando's Mac Gargan, aka Scorpion? We did get a tease in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Homecoming that he would be returning.
It's on our little spider friend. I've got some boys on the outside who'd love to meet him.
Speaking of that post-credit scene, we also have Michael Keaton's Adrian Toomes, who will appear in Morbius.
What's up, Doc?
You and I should stay in touch.
Now, whether he's the exact same Vulture or a very similar variant is yet to be seen. It gets very confusing when you talk about Sony's Spider-Verse.
I am so confused right now.
Keaton's Vulture would fit in nicely with an anti-hero version of the Sinister Six. Yes, he was the villain of Spider-Man Homecoming, but he isn't evil. Like most Spider-Man villains, he was a victim of circumstance. In the Homecoming post-credits scene, he even refuses to snitch on Spider-Man's identity.
If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead.
There's also Black Cat and Silver Sable, 2 characters who have been rumored to be getting their own team-up movie for a while now. Now, these characters also walk the line between good and bad, sometimes a friend of Spider-Man, and sometimes a foe.
Nice working with you again.
Will help me secure Norman. After that, I make no promises.
Now, we think it's unlikely we'll see any of the villains from Spider-Man No Way Home return again for a Sinister Six movie, because the movie ends with them no longer having superpowers. Except for Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, his cure was just fixing the inhibitor chip, and he still has his mechanical arms.
If I were a rich man.
And who else will return for this film? Well, last but certainly not least, Peter 3 himself, Andrew Garfield. Now, we did a video discussing his return, and in that video we mentioned how an Amazing Spider-Man 3 film is unlikely, but Andrew's return is imminent. In a recent interview, Andrew was asked if he'd be open to returning to the role of Spider-Man, and he said, quote, "Yes, definitely open to something if it felt right." Andrew would fit really well within this darker, gritty, adult, almost R-rated style of the Sonyverse. I mean, just imagine how great it would be to see Andrew Spider-Man trading quips with Venom and talking science stuff with Dr. Michael Morbius.
Yes, science!
And maybe his role in the film could be to help teach the other characters how to be superheroes and how to work as a team now that he has some experience in that arena from No Way Home. Now, how Andrew got to the same universe as Morbius and Venom is unclear, but it wouldn't be hard to explain how all of these characters would wind up in the same universe. For example, you could say that Venom and Peter 3 landed in the wrong universes when they were sent back home at the end of No Way Home. In fact, in that Amazing Spider-Man 3 video, we laid out some pretty solid speculation that Andrew has actually been in the Venom Morbius universe this entire time. Remember this shot from the Morbius trailer? A Spider-Man mural with murderer spray painted across it. What if this is actually referencing Andrew Garfield? And also, the channel Real Rejects put out a great video that was filled with clues. For instance, there's Oscorp Tower. The Daily Bugle headline in Carnage 2 actually mentions the Rhino. Shut up. And it also mentioned the Black Cat. Plus, a Venom symbiote does appear in a deleted scene from Amazing Spider-Man 2. And get this. When Harry goes through Oscorp's data, he finds files on Venom's storage and Michael Morbius. So it's not too big of a stretch to imagine that maybe the Venom movies have been sneaky prequels to the Amazing films, or that maybe Venom and Spider-Man just haven't met yet because they're on different coasts. Now, for any hero team-up film, you've got to have a big villain for them to fight. Not you. Sony has the entire Spider-Man Rogues gallery at their disposal. There are plenty of great villains that we have not seen on screen before. The Living Brain, Mr. Negative, Demon Goblin, Stegron the Dinosaur Man, Ultimate Goblin, the Other, Toxin. That's the character who was teased at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage.
Monsters.
Or maybe even Carnage himself could return.
This guy.
Yeah, even though that happened. But remember this, Venom ate the Carnage symbiote and Venom also ate the brain of Cassidy. It is possible that Carnage is still alive somewhere inside of Venom. Carnage could piece together the contents of Cassidy's brain, essentially his consciousness and DNA.
Are you gonna major in brain surgery?
Maybe, since they were already bonded once, the DNA of Cletus and Carnage will be drawn to one another within Venom. Then we could get a super messed up sequence where Venom gives birth to both of them at the same time. Now that's a Rhino movie that I want to see. Also keep in mind that Carnage and Cassidy's symbiosis was quite different from Eddie and Venom's.
They're not a match.
We are.
While Eddie and Venom are much better partners than Cassidy and Carnage are far more physically entwined. When Venom comes out, he forms around Eddie like armor. But when the Carnage symbiote would come out, Cassidy would just morph into Carnage. We also saw Carnage make holes in his body for bullets to pass through, which means that Cletus Cassidy's body was being split open as well. The reason we're pointing this out is to show that Carnage and Cassidy becoming a single being has already been hinted at. We should also remember that Carnage and Cletus were able to form this unique bond because Cletus is an insane serial killer. His mind just fit perfectly with the symbiote's bloodlust.
A wedding.
3 guests.
One for each of us.
Now, if Carnage or Toxin are the villains of the film, maybe we'll see them spawn some other symbiotes. These other creations would be cannon fodder for the Sinister Six to tear through, similar to Ultron's drones or Thanos' Outriders. Another option for a villain would be Spider-Man himself. What? Now, the general movie-going audience is now very familiar with the concept of multiple Spider-Men and the multiverse. In the comics, the multiverse is way more complicated. All the Spider-Men are connected through different dimensions by something called the Web of Life and Destiny. And a character called Madam Web is basically a seer who can see across this web. So there's bound to be a Spider-Man out there who took a darker path. Perhaps we could see an evil Spider-Man traveling through the universe via the Web of Life and Destiny, seeking to overthrow Madam Web and rule the multiverse.
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
See, the original Spider-Verse story was actually from the 1990s cartoon. And guess who the villain was? An evil version of Peter Parker who bonded with the Carnage symbiote.
It bonded with him somehow and drove him completely insane.
So imagine a Sinister Six film where it's the Sinister Six versus Spider-Man, but Spider-Man is the bad guy. That would be an awesome twist. But do not, I repeat, do not have Tom, Toby, or Andrew play the evil Spider-Man. Bring in a new actor to play a villainous version of the character. Don't taint Tom, Toby, or Andrew's iterations of this character by having them play evil versions. Unless their original good versions are there as well to help them fight the evil variant. That would be cool.
They love me.
But let us know your thoughts on a Sinister Six film down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.